Guys, hey, how's it going? Valkyrion here. There's been some requests on some spinning tutorials. Not that I consider myself all that great, but some people have asked for pointers. Excuse my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather. But this is going to be one of quite a number of just different tips and tricks videos. I'll try to make them short so you can get some immediate use out of them. But I wanted to start with kind of just like the basic things that you should work on just when you're getting used to spinning and getting comfortable. So I'm using my my MHS CFX installed build that I've got here. It's got a really nice choke point right here, and pretty much everything I do, I'm holding it here. This is my bottom hand area with the grip down here, but for the most part, everything I try to do is from the grip. So that's one thing that you can look out for, is make sure that you've got a Saber with a decent amount of grip, or a decent choke point or something like that where you can really feel comfortable holding it. Second thing is balance. You want to kind of know where your balance point is on this Saber. The balance point, bugs all over me. The balance point is pretty much right here, so right at the very end of the blade holder is where the balance point is. These things love the light that this is emitting, so that's great. Hate moths. Anyways, so you want to know where your balance point is, and for me, because balance point is there and my hand is back here, it naturally wants to drop. But where I hold it, if I'm holding it farther back, it wants to drop even harder, and it's kind of harder to balance. Here, there's a nice kind of fulcrum point. So if you are a musician or a drummer or anything like that, you kind of know what I'm talking about. You want to find the fulcrum point on a drumstick. Same kind of thing here. You have a nice point of contact so that you can control the weight as it dips down. So pretty much everything that I'm going to do, or anything that I do when I'm doing these spinning things, is to try to control the weight drop. And as the weight is dropping, I'm guiding it somewhere else. I'm allowing it to do all the work for me. So I'm not like holding it really tight and forcing my arm down. I'm letting the weight do its own thing. So to get an idea of how that feels, I'll use something that I used when I was learning how to sword fight. I used to do a lot of SCA fighting, medieval reenactment stuff. And the very first thing I learned when I started getting into that was something called the Statue of Liberty. And so I'll try to be loud so you can hear me. But basically, the Statue of Liberty, the idea is to put the saber or the sword straight up in the air, like this. And then you let it drop behind you. And you can feel the weight drop down. I'm not doing anything, it's just swinging there, right? And so you let it drop. Now the next thing you do when you're learning how to sword fight and you're doing this is you let that weight drop, and then you guide it forward to strike at the opponent's head. Like that. It's a circle. And I'm not doing anything except for letting the tip and the weight of the saber drop down, and I'm just following it and guiding it to here. If I just let it drop straight, it wants to just swing, right? So if it wants to swing, all I have to do is guide my hand to where I want it to swing. I hope that makes sense. And so everything I'm doing, even if it's out here, is I'm letting that tip drop and I'm guiding it somewhere. And that's where a lot of good sword fighters get all their power from. It's not from being super strong and whacking at somebody. It's knowing the conservation of motion and knowing how the forces are working. Where to use the force? So you understand where the weight is going, and it's almost like a whip action. You're kind of using that weight and that force and guiding that to where you want it to go. And if you're really good at it, you can make those circles very small and still create a lot of impact. So that's a good thing to know for just fighting in general. So if you're a dueler, or if you do any other sword fighting or anything like that, that's a good thing to know. Okay, so as far as spinning goes, the idea here is to use that same kind of idea, that same concept I just talked about, where you use the weight of it to guide it where you want it to go. Well, now you're just choosing where you want it to go. So the very first thing that I think anybody should learn is a forward spin. And you should do a forward spin just on your dominant side. So if you're right-handed, to be on your right side. If you're left-handed, to be on your left side. I recommend learning both, but I also recommend learning your right hand first, getting good at it before I started learning your left, because if you try to learn both at the same time, you're going to double up the time it takes for muscle memory to form on both sides. So just learn your dominant hand first, get really comfortable with it. When you think you've gotten pretty darn good and pretty comfortable and you can kind of do whatever you want with it without losing it, then switch to your left hand and start playing with that. All right. So the forward spin, I'm using my right hand because I'm right hand dominant. Just like I said, Statue of Liberty, let it drop. It's the same thing. You're letting it drop, but you're dropping it forward. So stick your arm straight out, kind of off to the side like this, and let the tip drop. And just do that a couple times to get a feel for where the weight goes. And now that you're getting a feel of where the weight goes, the only thing you have to do now is just guide it around. So I just gave it a little flick of the wrist. If you can believe it, I'm not using any muscle to I'm not getting here and then forcing it over. I'm not doing that at all. That would hurt my hand and it wouldn't make sense. I'm allowing the tip to drop and I'm just guiding it around. If you don't stop it there, if you just let it swing, it already wants to swing it back about that far. The only thing I'm doing here is just pulling my hand back and allowing it to continue on its natural path. That's the forward spin. So let the weight drop, spin, forward. The only other thing you need to know after you've gotten this down, and you feel like you can get that pretty well, is doing it on the other side. And now you just bring it over here onto your left if you're right-handed, or your right if you're left-handed. Same thing. Drop the tip to your opposite side, your non-dominant side, and then you just allow it to go forward. So I'll get a little closer so you can see my hand. I'm dropping it, I'm going slow here, and I'm just letting my hand guide it. So I'll do it kind of fast. I'm not giving it any force other than when it gets to about here, I just kind of push my arm forward a little bit, but I'm not doing any strength. There's no like big muscle movement. I'm just allowing it to do its own thing, and I'm just guiding it around. So you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Kind of hard to show when you're on the ground, but all I'm doing is I'm kind of lifting my elbow up to give space and letting my wrist guide it around. So forward spin, dominant side. Forward spin, dominant hand on your non-dominant side. When you have those two pretty good, you can do this, and you can do this. You just put them together. And then if you can do that and it feels comfortable, you just pick up the speed. Learn that first. Figure out that Statue of Liberty thing, figuring out where the weight's going on your particular saber, where it's comfortable to hold, and how that moves. And then once you get comfortable with that and you understand your saber and you understand how the weight works, then you start doing your forward spin and on your other side, forward spin. And lastly, you link them together. When you feel like you've gotten the initial concept down, and you can do forward spins pretty well on either side, and link them together and it's smooth, then proceed to the next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.